Cool. Yay. Okay, so we are recording. So for those who are watching asynchronously after the fact, welcome to our first Google EC book study Google Meet chat. I am Georgina from GEGMN, joined by all of these inspiring Googlers from around the world who would like to become Google coaches. So yay, super exciting. Okay, does everybody in the chat have the book study open, the Google Slide study open? Does anybody need me to drop the link in the chat? Just let me know. We can do that. Awesome. Okay, so today basically we're going to go through the questions. It would be really awesome if you would like to share. Please just you can use the raise your hand not feature, of course, or just unmute and let us know. It'll be kind of like a round table just to like share even more on what was already added into the Google Slides. And then at the end, we'd like to hear some feedback. There was also some feedback already shared in the Google Slides on what you guys wanted to hear from today's session. So that'll be coming at the end as well. And then we'd love to get some feedback on the format for the book study before we release the slide deck this evening for round 2. So let's get started then. Did everyone just want to introduce yourselves and say hi? So I'm going to mute. I'm Georgina from GEGMN. I'm in Jordan and really excited to be here with all of you. If you just want to say hi and introduce yourself, feel free, or you can type pass if you would like to pass. All right. Who would like to go first?
I'm Jeremy. I'm joining on my phone today. I'm from Illinois, the southern part, about 4 hours south of Chicago.
Near Springfield?
I'm about an hour, about 90 minutes from Springfield.
Cool.
So deep south.
It doesn't have much relation to me other than I went skydiving there. Only thing I've ever done in Springfield. So that's cool. I'll go next since I'm unmuted. I'm Becky. I apologize. I look very tired. We had a board meeting until midnight that I had to present at last night. So, and that was 6 hours ago. But I'm really excited to be here with everyone.
Thanks for joining, Becky. Super early. You're a trooper, man. All right. So if we use the Google Meet and go around the table maybe, or would anyone else like to go next?
Hi, I'm Mia. I'm actually from Northern Illinois, right in the Chicagoland area. So hello, Jeremy, to a fellow person from Illinois. Very excited for today.
I'm Azim from Sri Lanka, all the way across the other side of the world, I think 12 hours almost from where you all are participating. It's 6:30 p.m. here, and super happy to be taking part in this first meet. Nice to meet you all.
Azim, you're incredible, man. Thanks for joining us. I'm Devin Rossiter, academic coach here in Bakersfield, California. I don't do too many book studies. I do a lot of book readies. So I'm happy to be in the participation with everybody today.
Good morning. It's Robin from South Florida. I'm sorry about the appearance. I just got out of the shower because I went out for a run and got caught in a storm. So it wouldn't matter if I got in the shower or not because I'd look like this. But anyway, from South Florida, the only book studies that I've ever been a part of are the ones where I assign the book to my students and they pretend to read it and I talk about it and they say, oh yeah, I remember that. So I'm looking forward to an actual intellectual book study.
Well, I'll follow right up there. My name is Rick Ballou, or Frederick Ballou. I'm from the Minnesota metro area. GEG Minnesota metro area, and following off on Robin's comment, I didn't read yet, so I'm going to do what her students do.
I'm Shannon. I'm also in Central California, Visalia, California, so not far from Bakersfield, where Devin's from. And I'm tired too. It's early, but we're trooping.
Hi, I am Tiffany McCoy Thomas. I'm from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Well, I work in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I think everyone is tired because we're still working. I've not stopped since schools have closed. Fred, I understand. I've started and I have a lot of reading to do this evening. So you're not alone. Looking forward to our journey.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula from Washington State, also 6 a.m. Tired also, Becky. And I'm just excited to be a part of this group and learn with all of you.
Hi, I'm Pat Hausman. I am in Northern Virginia, so 9 a.m. here, but some of you will dislike this part. I am one of those annoying morning people, so I've actually been up and working since 6 a.m. by choice. Don't hate me too much.
I'll go next. I'm Teresa Hoover Dukasu, also in Northern Virginia, but not a morning person. So I'm very jealous of those of you who can get up and be productive right away. I have to kind of drag myself, but it's great to be with all of you.
Hey everybody, I'll go next. I'm Rebecca Wessel. I'm from Santa Clarita, California. I'm an instructional coach. I work with Becky, and I've got my coffee, so I'm all good.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jackie Whiting. I'm from Connecticut. I work for one of our state-based educational agencies doing coaching and PD for the 3 schools in our agency, a special ed school, a performing arts high school, and a multicultural pre-K through 8 magnet school. And then I also provide coaching services and PD support for the 17 schools in our member districts. 17 member districts in our agency. So it's hundreds of schools.
Hi everyone, I'm Mel from the UK, Wales. Excited to see how this is all going to work because we don't actually do any instructional coaching in the UK. So excited to learn with you all, and it's lovely to see you all.
I'll pop in next. My name is Alex Milton. I'm from Michigan, and I'm a K-12 technology integration coach. Besides working on this coaching program, I'm also a VIA 20 hopeful, which I see a lot of other people are as well. So kind of that anticipation is growing today for sure.
Hi there, I'm Lisa Treen. I live in Huntington Beach in California, and I'm just joining because I'm curious to see what everything's going on, and you guys are actually mesmerizing me. It's early.
Hey everybody, I'm Kat. I'm in Hickory, North Carolina, so sorry for those of you that have to get up so early. I'm a morning person too, but yeah, so I'm excited to be here. This is my first year as an instructional coach. I'm actually a first grade teacher, but I'm at a really small school. We only have about 130 students, and but they need a lot of help when it comes to technology. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot here.
Cool. I'll jump in at that point. Hi everyone. I'm Abbott Patel. I'm an IT director from London. I too am not a morning person, but it's 2:15 in the afternoon here, and I've been up since 4 a.m. Grumpy time for me, I guess you can say. But like Melanie, we don't do any instructional coaching, anything like that here in the UK. So I'm just here for the fun times, really, and just here to cause havoc. And I think everyone knows how crazy I am by now. So
That's really great. So I think there's a few more people, and I see that Dr. Karen just joined us. So I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to say hi and welcome who popped in a bit late. We were just doing a roundtable introductions. Feel free to unmute and say hi if you'd like.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello. Oh my God. I am Filomena Pizzoli from Italy, South Italy. Here it's very hot, about 40 degrees, and I am on the beach as usual. I've just arrived on the beach. I am Google trainer. I'm waiting for a VA 20 application. So finger crossed. Thank you.
Devin, did you get that top secret list of all the confirmed applications that for VIA 20 that I sent over to you?
Did that just happen right now? Is that recorded? Good. Okay, just making sure.
Can I add, for anyone who doesn't know what VIA 20 is, because I think there might be a few people in here who are like, I don't know what you all are talking about. VIA 20 is the Google for Education Innovator Program, and it's a huge deal. And a past innovator who's had some more sleep could probably explain it better than I could. But basically, we've been waiting for weeks to find out who got in to this next innovator cohort, which is going to be virtual. So virtual innovator. I don't know what the A is. Why don't I know the A? But Academy. Thank you. I did know the A, and it wasn't coming. The Virtual Innovator Academy, we're thinking could potentially be announced today. There were a ton of applicants, I hear, and we don't know how many got in. So we're all a little on edge waiting for that email.
So 36 isn't a magic number?
Not this go around. It used to be when it was in person, but we don't know this year. I hope it's.
There are lots of rumors going around. 30 is the number that we were told before, but there are rumors abound, shall I say?
And New York City was 42, so it's been increasing.
There are a lot more coaches, a lot more, because it's spread out. There's a lot more. There's just more of everything, more of awesomeness. So yeah.
I mean, we could probably spend this whole hour and another hour on top, and like two more hours after that talking about innovator. Trust me, between Devin, Teresa, Pat, Fred, and I, we could probably go on for all night long.
Yeah, and I think that it might help all those applicants if we came back to, because I didn't read a book last night about innovator. I'm really eager to get back in here. And for anything else, it'll provide a nice distraction from everything else. So yeah, I'm really eager to get in on a discussion here.
Awesome. Okay, so let's get started, and I will share my screen. Obviously, you guys can follow along. We shared the link. Thank you to Mia who did that. And I will share my screen also so we can see it together. And then basically, as I said before, if you would like to add on or share, please just go ahead and let's try. First of all, maybe I should ask, does everybody have the Not extension installed in their Google Meet to be able to raise their hand, or would you prefer just to say, like, I'll share in the chat and then I can call on you that way? Which do you guys prefer? Chat? Okay. Yep. Okay, cool. All right, so just drop in the chat if you'd like to share, and then we will do it that way. Okay, so welcome to Courageous Adventures. I'm really excited. And basically, we just spent the first few slides introducing ourselves. So we also did that virtually together. So thank you for sharing. Just kind of helps us get to know each other a little bit before we go through. So thank you to everybody who did that. I had started commenting in the chat, and then I decided just let everybody feel free. So I thought we would share together today instead of that. But thank you to everybody who dropped where they're joining from and the school they work at, and how they're super excited to become coaches. So basically, I laid out the questions in Choose Your Own Adventure Story. So you could literally just click on the question to take you to the slide decks. So I'll be looking for feedback on that later. And we basically just read the preface in chapter 1. So if you've not yet read those, don't worry at all. I think the total was 16 pages. And so we will chat about it, and it will hopefully inspire you to then read after the fact. So the first question was basically just talking about courage and the adventure that we're going to go on. So as we begin our adventure together, we wanted to start by celebrating all of the awesomeness that you guys are currently doing in your role as an education leader. And so to pick out something that went really well and how it has supported your school or supported you or supported your students, what made that experience super memorable for you. So obviously we're not going to go through and read the answers. I wanted to pick out a couple, but I thought that I would ask first, would anybody like to share their story that they had added in the chat and maybe elaborate on it to make it more meaningful for anybody? So would anybody like to share first? Let me know.
Would this also be a time for anyone who didn't fill in the slides to share?
Oh, that's a lovely idea. I like that. Absolutely. Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to type on the slides, absolutely, you are welcome to share verbally. virtually. It almost came out virtually. It was kind of a tongue twister there.
Well, someone in the chat said they were curious about my journey, so I actually have to refresh my memory and go back to what I wrote, unless there's another Mia that I'm not aware of, because the name is becoming more common. Okay. Oh my goodness. I think, where did I put my information on the slide?
You are on slide 12, I'm pretty sure. And it looks like my computer's about to crash. So if you see me drop in and out, it's because I may have to reboot.
Okay. All right. So I guess I'm not certain what to... I'll just kind of summarize what my journey was. I earned my undergraduate degree in secondary education, which in the US is grades 6 through 12. I know that, across the world there are different standards, but basically I became certified to teach students who'd be aged from 12 to 18. And I was certified in social sciences, taught in high school for about 5 years. During that time, I earned my master's of technology in education. And the reason I went after that particular degree was because all the PD I did was focused on technology. All the PD that I really got excited about and was thrilled about applying in my own classroom was about technology. So from there, I started looking for positions where I could full-time work on technology, and I was hired at an elementary district. And I've been working there for the past 2 years and doing my best to help plan for our remote learning open. So fingers crossed. I hope that gives a little more light in what you were looking for. But if you have a more specific question, I'd be happy to address it in the chat.
Georgina, I think you're on mute if you're talking.
It looks like she might be crashing. Yeah, she is. We'll give Georgina a minute. Anyone else want to share their a courageous adventure that they've been on? So just an example of a time when you had to be courageous in your role as an instructional leader. It doesn't necessarily have to be a coach, and you could still be in the classroom.
So my education career has been that of somebody from outside the classroom from the beginning. I didn't start out of college as an educator. I took a completely other career path in broadcasting that ultimately did not pan out the way that I hoped. Education was kind of the backup plan. So, having that perspective has always been kind of one of those things that, I've kind of had to push back against because, I didn't go from college to elementary. And, that's something that I see quite a bit. And so, what I find quite often is that perspective often provides insightful for people that have never really been in the professional setting outside of, the academic field. And so there's often some pushback around that in the sense that perspective can be very skewed, very narrow for people that have never really had the experience to understand how the skills that we try to bring to students are actually applied in professional settings outside of academia.
I'm right there with you, Devin. I was an optician for 18 years before I started teaching. I didn't start teaching till I was almost 40 years old. And there is a definite difference in viewpoint, and it is an adventure when you leave the corporate world and you go into the education world, because they don't call it a corporate world and an education world for no reason. They are two different worlds. So it's a complete readjustment. It's a complete different mindset, but yet there are a lot of similarities.
I can share where I've had the challenge of having to be very brave and outside of the comfort zone. I'm almost what my role has sort of evolved into is almost like an instructional tech coach, because in the UK, where our focus on edtech just hasn't been there. It's kind of been thrown on the IT guy sort of thing to what do you suggest for is the best tech for teaching sort of thing, when you don't know the first thing about teaching. And so we went G Suite in 2017, when hardly anyone in the UK had heard about it. And so, you know, there were all those questions about, well, is our data safe, and how are we going to teach, and what about Word and Excel and PowerPoint and all of our resources in them, and what are you going to do? You're going to take away the servers, and what's in it for Google? Why are they giving it away for free? And so for me, it's always been about taking everyone else on the journey of that digital transformation, and it's been it still is, for quite a lot of schools in the UK, is a very big challenge, that's why you know, we don't have instructional tech coaches, because our approach to learning has just been far too traditional up until now, and it still would be to this day if COVID-19 hadn't happened. The very same head teacher who at one of my schools turned around to me just 6 months ago and said, you know, Google Classroom isn't for us. And then lo and behold, all we've been doing for the last few months is Google Classroom. And so it's literally been a case of trying to take people on the journey who didn't want to go on the journey, and now suddenly are forced to go on the journey and maybe want to go or don't want to go, or it's a case of they're just waiting to come back to traditional teaching. And so it's a very fine balance at the moment. Some schools are starting to see the benefit of the approach, but some schools are still ready to, I can't wait till we're back teaching as soon as the children are back, as we've always known, sort of thing. And it's that aversion to change, really. And that's what, you know, that history is what sparked my innovator project, and that's why I'm doing what I do now.
Yay, thanks for sharing, Abbott. And sorry about my computer crash. That sometimes happens when you have too many tabs open, as my husband constantly reminds me. But yeah, Abbott's story is super, super special. And I think that's one thing that to celebrate with all of you is that because this is a global book study, is that we have the different approaches from what coaching looks like globally. And I think Abbott really hit that, you know, nail on the head really well, and to say that we are absolutely learning from everybody, and it's going to be such an amazing journey together. I know Kat said in the chat that she would also like to share, so go ahead, Kat.
Hi. So I feel I kind of have a unique perspective. I was an international teacher for 11 years and worked basically on every continent, and got to really experience what schools look like all over. And I just noticed at every school that I worked at, I always was drawn to technology. And so long story short, I ended up back in the States. And, you know, like I said, now I'm in North Carolina, and I'm working at a small school, and it's an independent school. And a lot of times when people hear about independent schools, they think, oh, you know, you guys got all this money, and, you know, you must have all this technology, because a lot of times people think money equates technology. And but actually, it's one of the schools that has the least amount. I mean, I worked at a school in Beirut, Lebanon, and we had, you know, an iMac lab, and we had, you know, iPad cards, and here I am, you know, in the US, and all we have are old desktops, and I have to scrounge around for you know, old devices and old tablets and things like that. So a lot of basically all the teachers at my school are not really interested or haven't really bought into technology. And, you know, obviously, like Abbott said, because of COVID, they've started to. But last year, so basically I've been kind of an unofficial instructional technology coach for the past few years for teachers that want to know more about technology. But I was feeling that I really needed to be able to reach the ones who aren't coming to me and talking to me about how to innovate and how to, use tech tools. And so last fall, before school started, I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go. Actually, I went to the ISTE, CCL. I presented there, and I just met all these teachers who were basically like, yeah, I just got thrown in this position. I'm an instructional technology coach, but I, used to do this, or I was, put here. And I thought, well, why can't I just do that? Like, why can't I just, that's what my passion is. I love it. I teach first grade, but, I'm still, technology is still that passion. So after that, I went and I talked to my head of school and said, look, I think we need one. I'm not expecting to have it be my full-time position. I'm still a first grade teacher, but because I love it so much and feel we need it, I want to be the school's instructional technology coach. I want to have a little bit more authority to go and help people, even if, they think they don't need help, was kind of the idea that I had then. But even now, I'm really happy that I'm doing this because it's already changed my perspective. It's not about going in and telling people what to do. It's about finding out what they want to do and how can I help them, reach those goals. So luckily he was super, really excited and supportive about it. And so when I went in for my contract in February, they were like, okay, let's do this. And I still don't really know what the role is. And I still feel kind of weird saying that I am, because I kind of feel like I just made it up and, this is, what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go with it and be confident with it. And I already feel a lot more confident with it just because of joining this group. So that's my story.
Oh, what an inspiring story. Thanks for sharing, Kat. And I think that's so powerful, and is that many of us, and reading from the comments, have taken initiative to try and get this kind of thing started. And so it's just so exciting that Google have offered this program that will actually amplify everything that we're all trying to do for our school communities and or districts, etc. So thank you so much for sharing. I know Rebecca also has an interesting journey. Rebecca, did you want to share that? I think you were pre-nominated by somebody else, but feel free if you'd like to.
And Rebecca, you don't have to share, but I did nominate you. Rebecca and I worked together, and Rebecca's journey is different, but it probably isn't too different. It's not necessarily around technology coaching, but just into how the role was developed in our district. I'll let you take it away.
Sure. I wasn't sure if they were talking to you, Becky, or to me. Sure. I've been an instructional coach in my district. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I've been an instructional coach in my district for 5 years now. I started as a math coach and then went into English language arts literacy, ELD, blah, blah, blah. So my background is in instructional theory and curriculum design. That's my master's, but not technology. So when COVID hit, I felt just utterly helpless. I had no idea how to help anybody or where to start, but I was tasked with providing some kind of math PD because the math curriculum we were using was not providing resources for teachers for online teaching that was meaty, wasn't really beyond worksheets. So what I did is I just worked with Becky and learned a little bit about the technology and created a PD around high leverage math activities for distance learning, specifically using Jamboard mostly, but it wasn't so much about the technology on my end, it was about the activities, the instructional activities. But the scariest thing for me was just doing the Google Meet. I had never done any technology like this before. I had never even engaged in a Zoom. So I literally felt like Becky was holding my hand the entire time. And she continued to do so. But I have just learned to love these Google tools. I'm so excited as an educator. So that's my story. So, sticking to it.
Can I add some background there? So if you need someone who has overcome the challenge of being thrown into a coaching position where people feel like they're either forced to work with you because the district has made that happen, which doesn't make people feel good about having to work with a coach, or like Rebecca said, she started as a math coach, and most teachers feel pretty good about teaching math because they just in elementary. I don't know, that seems to be something they feel good about. So I know when Rebecca started the position, I'm talking for her, she was kind of thrown in as go and help with math. And teachers were like, I don't need your help with math. So she's had to overcome that obstacle of being thrown in, not even on a technology standpoint, but being thrown in and people being forced to work with her, to now having to change what it means to work with a coach and how it's working side by side. And there were a lot of issues around people feeling like she was there to get them in trouble, they had to work with her because they weren't good enough. And why was she the expert? And we've worked together this is our 3rd year together already. But when I joined the district, I heard the backstory of coaching and it wasn't so pretty. So when we're going through all these obstacles, because they will come up, especially now that we've been in distance learning for so long, people are going to feel like, well, why do I need coach support? I did this from March until now. I know how to run a classroom. Why would I need someone to support me in this? I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, but I can tell you Rebecca is someone who has overcome this for the past 5 years in supporting in math. So use her as a resource in just how she did that.
Thank you so much for sharing that background. That is a massive struggle for so many, even including myself. I'm sure that there's not one coach out there that would tell you that they never encountered that barrier at some point of their career in instructional coaching. So thank you so much for sharing that with everybody. And hopefully, yes, this book study and the lovely curriculum put on by Google EC will help all of us on this adventure journey. I really liked what Abbott said also about that being a journey, is that it really is a growth journey. And I personally don't think this will ever change. I've been in education for 16 years now, and I'm learning new things every day. And I just think it's going to be a brilliant time together. So thank you for joining this journey with us. How exciting. Okay, so just for time, we've scheduled in an hour. So I'm going to move us through a little more through the questions now to be done on time. And then if we decide, if you guys think that, 2 hours would be better at the end, you can let us know and we're happy to reorganize all of that. Okay, so for question number 2, this was really diving into what we think we know about the difference between technology and pedagogy and what are some of the misconceptions that are out there. So I know Becky and Rebecca, is that right? I should, Becky and Rebecca, that's correct. Okay, have touched a little bit about on that. But what would you say, looking through the questions, guys, have been the big 3 misconceptions that we see here in the chat? And if you haven't had a chance yet to add, but you know that there's a big misconception out there, feel free to join as well. We basically want to take that question and look at what are the big misconceptions that we have faced, and what are some of the things that maybe you have been able to do already or ideas that we could start to use. Great. So Mia shared in the chat. Yeah, sure. With pleasure. Share my screen again. Good call. 1 second. Okay, there we go. Can you guys see that okay now? Okay, awesome. So question 2 was, what are some of the misconceptions between pedagogy and technology integration that you have faced at your school, or could be your district or your organization? And what do you understand the relationship to be between pedagogy and technology? And then how could we help the leaders understand that? So part of our journey, as you will see as you go through the curriculum, is not just supporting the people that we're there to support, but it's actually helping everybody understand what is the difference and the connection in that relationship. So we have some people who've shared in the chat already. Mia said that tech is a burden and not a blessing. Dr. Karen says there's an emphasis on the tool. And Shannon says annoyance and burnout fueled by the next thing. And also, I want an app to teach algebra. That's awesome. I think we've all heard that a lot. What's the next best app for that? Okay, so would anybody like to share a way or a strategy that they have used to help them in explaining that awesome relationship between the two, and that the focus should always be on pedagogy? Does anybody have some tips that they've already gone through that would help other people in the book study? Please feel free to share.
I think from my standpoint, emphasizing the general, like specifically G Suite, how versatile one thing is, So there's not a specific app for algebra, but you can use Google Slides to demonstrate the algebraic functions that you're talking about, but you can also use that for English. So to try not to emphasize the tool, but what you can do with it. And that gets teachers thinking about maybe not searching around for the next coolest app, but what can I do with what I have? And that gets when you limit the items, you increase the creativity. That's what I learned from my Google experiences.
I love that. And I love how you said focus on creativity and bringing that out. One of my favorite, probably the favorite of the 4 C's, soon to be the 6 C's with some schools of thought. I absolutely love creativity. So thank you for touching on that. Would anyone else like to share?
I will. I also, to add on to what Karen said, thank you, Karen. I like to encourage people to exploit all that a tool can do rather than try to use and certainly not be able to master every tool they can get their hands on. Find a tool that actually works well to address a problem of practice or works well to support a quality kind of pedagogical strategy that you're using in the classroom, and then use that tool for all that it's worth, rather than investing energy in trying to master and stay up with every tool that comes out onto the market, because that's absolutely impossible to do. And that, I think, helps people to not feel overwhelmed by trying to keep up with all the tools when they can use a handful of tools to just really well and maximize their utility for teaching and learning.
I love that. A super mindful approach and helps people feel less overwhelmed. Thank you so much for sharing, Jacqueline. And I think calendar wrangler is Abbott. Is that right? Abbott, are you the calendar person? I think so. Okay.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Yeah. It says pedagogy hasn't been refined to the best leverage the tech that is out there. And I agree. I think we're in a really epic and exciting time for education, guys. I think all of us together are going to be helping to redefine education globally. And I think it's really exciting. So thank you, Abid, for sharing that. And I noticed on the slide, like Mia had a really great approach, and I think Rebecca too, using like questioning as a strategy to help people think about their understanding. Would either of you like to share your approach to that strategy before we move on?
I'll just say very quickly that the question that I go back to, and I saw that this question was also brought up by, I saw someone else say it, by Rebecca. Yes, how does this support student learning? Just go back to the objective. I think sometimes teachers can become focused on the efficacy or the simplicity of if I give them this app or tool. So asking them, what are you trying to actually do? What are you trying to assess? What skills are you trying to practice? Those are the questions that I tend to give. And I do want to say sometimes it is a successful strategy, sometimes it is not, but at least as someone once said to me, if it feels like it's not succeeding, you are being a little drop in the water that's creating those ripples where maybe your drop won't be heard, but they might hear it from someone else and then absorb it and realize, okay, let's make it about what the students need to learn.
Oh,
if I can just,
go ahead.
I was just going to add a couple things about that. Definitely you have the teachers, and like me, I'm sure, this is all new and everything is shiny and bright and you want to try everything. So always bringing it back to student learning outcomes. But there was something I really appreciated in the text that we're reading was to help teachers who are afraid of the technology and see their peers, especially their younger peers who this has been part of their education. They know how to use these tools and they're very creative. It can be really scary when you're an old guard person like me and you've never done these. So making sure that it is a strength-based approach into coaching where you can just see what they're doing and see what they're on the verge on and helping them move to the very next step and feel good about that. I think that's really important in our role as a coach.
And I think one of the things to kind of add on to that, Rebecca, is, the assumption sometimes that this is for a lot of those teachers, it's the first time they've ever encountered technology. It really isn't. A lot of these educators have technological trauma where they were given tools and it didn't work the way it was supposed to, and the frustration builds up. Everybody comes from a place of authenticity. And I think the difference between technology and pedagogy is, the most interesting uses of the tools that we're starting to see are those beyond their intended design and purpose. Look, Google Slides is wonderful, but it was created to be a presentation suite. But I love seeing all the ways that people use slides beyond that. That's pedagogy, when you can take a tool and craft it for your intended purpose for an audience beyond yourself. If you're going to use slides for graphic design or animation, or collaboration, that's amazing. That's well beyond, I think, what any of us thought of it when we first saw it. So bringing teachers to that connection, the idea of you're going to be able to use this tool for whatever you want to use it for, and that's your version of mastery and understanding. I think that's the big shift that we're looking to bring many of our educators that we work with to.
Oh, there is so much I love in that answer. So the shift, the mindset shift, and also I really loved the technology trauma. I'm really glad you brought that up, Devin, because it is a real thing, and maybe we're not all aware that that really exists, but that is the truth. And there will be always at least one member of staff at your school. Hopefully that'll, develop as time goes on, who really haven't had access to technology or know how to use it, confidently enough, let alone to be able to support their students. So this is a brilliant idea. Lisa's also just dropped in the chat my favorite thing, which is failing forward, the FF. And so I really love that idea as well. And these are the things that we can absolutely be encouraging our staff with when we are helping them with technology, is what is the skill you're trying to look for, and have a go and have a try. And it's okay if it doesn't work, because that's how we're all learning, and us as well as coaches. So I love everything about that. Thank you for sharing, guys. So just for time, I'm going to move along, but please do keep dropping any extras that you want to add on in the chat, because it looks like we're all reading and absorbing that as well together. The next question was moving into chapter number 1. And this question here talks about building blocks. And it's a very interesting analogy that Jenny McGarrah makes in the book, because she's talking about building blocks as opportunities and vehicles for moving the learning forward. But I also really like to think of it from a coaching perspective, and how are we also applying that in our roles to move education forward and to move the school's vision forward. And so you can actually look at this question from many different angles. And it was interesting to read some of the responses that you guys had shared, which I'll get to in a minute. But the questions that evolved from what Jenny was talking about in her book was this whole idea, as Abbott mentioned earlier, of a journey. And so you may see in the top corner of my slide deck, and it's on the front page, that there's an image of a sailboat. So being part of the pilot for the Google EC project back in the end of last year, this sailboat was really the focus of Jenny's book study. So in the course, it used to be you would see the sailboat, and it would be like different milestones along the journey. And I know through the chapter, if you've read it, she talks about that. And so we're really trying to unpack here, how do we start that sail moving? And what are the strategies and tips that we have in place in order to start that journey together? And also thinking of examples where you supported, as Devin just mentioned, positive mindsets, where teachers felt safe that they could take those risks and move it forward. So did anybody feel, from having had read those questions, that they would like to elaborate or share anything? Robin says she loves the sailboat. Awesome. Thanks. Go ahead, Shannon.
I just really liked, prior to getting into that whole building block aspect, she talked about this idea that we need to let go of the preconceived notions of what our classrooms should look or feel or sound like. And I think a lot of the time, when people are attempting to take that risk and integrate more technology to enhance their teaching, they'll go watch different teachers who will, be doing this seamlessly, right? And so then they take that back to their own classroom and try to mimic it. And the reality is that every single classroom is different. And in order to take our own journey, it's important to let those preconceived notions of what should be, let those go. And I think that applies also as a coach, right? We have our own journeys, but we can't kind of foist those journeys onto other people, we need to make sure that we are asking those questions and we are helping individuals kind of think through their own thinking, right? That metacognition, so that they, can get to where they need to be, and not just be mimicking the next classroom. And I think that's really important, to kind of allow for freedom, or that like safety to take those risks in the classroom.
I love that. That is awesome. I was just typing. I didn't know you were going to finish so quickly, about not forcing our preconceived notions onto others. And I think that is so important to remember, because we all come along with our own toolkits and our own experiences. And I think that's really important, is to be able to go into it with an open mind. How are we able to actually pick and choose, oh, well, actually, that could be like meaningful. And so, or versus trying to instill our own ideas. And so I thought that was really powerful. But Jenny does talk about letting go. Does anybody have any tips on what has been useful for others in helping teachers let go, so that and create that safe place for others? Would anyone like to share? Great. So Abbott said one of the fastest ways to set sail is when they face a challenge, they need to help and need help finding a solution. Great. Go ahead, Devin.
One of the things we've tried doing at our school site is creating kind of informal demo playgrounds. So maybe just like a 25-30 minute window after school where teachers can come and play around with the tool. It's not like a designated formal professional development session. It is just an opportunity to play around with a tool without any context of instruction or content, to allow teachers to get at least familiar with a structure before they even consider maybe putting it into that toolbox. So we've had some success with that. And what it does is it creates a playful environment around something that is new. And so when people come up with these ideas, they're excited to share them at these playgrounds, and they start coming up with suggestions for things that they'd like to share.
I am so excited by your playground. In fact, I've hashtagged it and I plan on tweeting it out soon. So stand by. I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing. It's a brilliant idea. I'm going to be using it. Thank you, Devin. Alex is mentioning in the chat on page 5, quoting, just because something is old, one person doesn't mean that it isn't life-changing to someone else. Absolutely. There's also another saying that I won't be able to come up with off the top of my head, but something about something that's old for someone else is valued by another person. It's the same idea. So absolutely creating opportunities for everybody. And just because it's innovation for one person doesn't mean that it's not innovating for somebody else. So I absolutely love that. Kat is agreeing with Devin, and why wouldn't that work for adults too? I love that. I am such a big advocate for the candle of curiosity vertically and keeping that burning across school. It's actually one of the hashtags when we rebranded our school's vision and mission, is early years up, and how we harness that curiosity and keep it going all the way through life, not just stopping at the end of the school journey. So I totally agree with that. Shannon saying providing choice in formal PD as well, and teacher agency, another hashtag I absolutely love. That's super cool. Awesome. So lots of great ideas. And I love the playground thing. One thing that I actually really helped my school a lot was having an open door for teachers. And so teachers could come into my classroom, because the leadership at my school, we all teach a few hours a week. So I teach 6 hours of creative media, and I have an open door policy. And it was the same for virtual online learning, where teachers could bring their devices and learn with my students in the classroom. So they could either choose to sit back and watch, or they could play and be part of that class. And it was kind of a nice way for them to integrate with other content that also was not in their curriculum expertise. So that's another idea that I wanted to share from my own there. Devin says that, okay, I'm not going to announce that out loud. You can read the chat from Devin, who's put a nice little comment in there. And then Teresa says she has to go. Yeah, if you guys need to go, thank you so much for joining. I'm so excited. I'd like to go a few extra minutes, if that's okay, just to get through all the questions. Is everybody okay with that? Or does everybody need, Becky, do we need to stop like exactly, or can I go over a bit today? Is that fine?
Based on Devin's message, we can go for at least 30 more minutes.
Okay, awesome.
You can go longer. It's totally fine with me.
Okay, so I just wanted to give everybody a chance to say hi, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I really think that helped break the ice for all of us to get to know each other for sharing. And so it was important for me to do that round table at the beginning. And so I want to go over a little bit longer. And yeah, so thank you. Okay, so we'll keep going, and it's recorded, and then you can watch it after if you have to leave. So thank you. Okay, Fred has a meeting. Rick, see you soon, Rick. Okay, I got really excited because okay, so I'm just going to keep going. That totally threw me off. Thank you, Devin, for throwing me off my book study game. Awesome. Yeah. All right, question number 4. So this one was, actually, I want to go back. Sorry, I'm totally off my game. We can thank Devin for that. I want to just go back to the compass point. So I'm back on question 3. So after you guys all shared about how we can create a safe space for teachers, I wanted to go back to the compass strategies, which Jenny talks about in the book. Really, really important about navigating and keeping the focus. And I know that you had all shared earlier about those misconceptions, and that the focus should be with a pedagogical reason, that we want the students to be able to achieve their goals, etc. So what would you say so far in your journey? And obviously more strategies will come as we grow and learn from each other, but would you call out one tip that you found successful in helping your educators or your team stay focused, keeping their compass on the right gear? Is there any shout outs for things that worked really well for anybody? You can just drop it in the chat too. One thing that worked really well for myself was using celebration. So for those of you who know me, I'm really, really big on celebrating all wins. And I know that's coming a little bit later, but helping to stay on the focus would be that when I celebrate teachers who have done a really great job with something ed tech related, we celebrate starting with the goal. So what was the student able to achieve? And the tech celebration aspect always comes like at the end. So it was like the tie-in. I found that with that in place, the teachers then were always had the focus of what was the student able to get out of that, because we were using that tool in the classroom. So that was one thing that worked really well. And feel free to drop in any others in the chat if you like. Oh, thanks, Lisa. Okay, we'll move on to question number 4 then. Question number 4 is about investigating SAMR and the TIM models. So when I first went through this coaching program by Patrick, TIM was brand new for me. I hadn't heard about that before reading this book. And so obviously I'd heard about SAMR before, but not. We basically want to take a look at when we're supporting educational technology integration in classrooms, which framework do you prefer and why? Some of you may be in a situation where you'd never heard of either before, and some of you may have heard of both. But would anybody like to say either one of those models, how it's really helped you with your ed tech integration at your school? We'd love to hear your stories. And we definitely had some comments in the chat. It looked like many people had used SAMR also, so it could have been that some people were in the same situation as me and not heard of TIM. One of the goals that I'm setting for myself as an instructional coach, or that side of my role anyway, will be to try to implement TIM, because it really is a deep dive in from the SAMR model. Has anybody tried using that before? That for myself will be my new goal for this year.
I haven't used it yet, but I was actually really intrigued by the TIM model as well. I felt like, so I'm like more of like a logical like brain, and I think very linear in a lot of ways. And so to see like different aspects of the learning environment really like highlighted with clear kind of, you know, specific focuses for those areas, it just really kind of made it more less abstract for me. I feel like SAMR is good in theory in my mind. Like there's all these elements and you can do a deep dive into that, but I feel like it's so broad. Whereas the TIM matrix or the TI matrix, I guess, is like much more focused. And for someone who is an English teacher, like it's like a little mini rubric. And I can like, I really, really love that. And I think as I was kind of reading through this, you know, I like this model, but I think for me, like, I would like to maybe go through and change some of the criteria within the rubric and just like reword it, because I feel like maybe it is still a little too broad and I can make it more specific to my school site, just to ensure that like it's, you know, helping out all my teachers and like colleagues.
I totally loved what you said about it looking like a rubric. And that was me, for myself, being a visual learner. It was the first thing that I saw when I saw the TIM model as well. But I really liked what you said about SAMR too. So if any of you are an ISTE educator or going through the course, I'm personally going through the course. So we're really diving into the SAMR model a lot right now. And what I found is that it's actually quite difficult to take each of the sections of SAMR, and it's different for each individual, for each teacher. Like what could be like, you know, modifying versus redefining could also be different based on the teacher, based on the school environment. And so it is very broad in that sense. Some of the examples that we look at in ISTE are quite clear, but that's not always the situation for each school and each teacher. So it's a very interesting thing to keep in mind when we're looking at SAMR, is that everybody's coming to each of these models with their own toolkit of experiences already. And so how do we support teachers from their perspective coming into each of those models? So I'm really excited. And Shannon, I'll probably be picking your brain because I'm going to be using TIM myself as well. And so looking forward to that. I wanted to pick out a comment here from Patrick. Obviously, everybody's is super awesome, but I did want to say that I really enjoyed reading Patrick's, who said here, can everybody see the size? Do I need to make it a little bigger here? Let's see if that helps. There we go. Patrick here said that, is he still with us? No, he left. Okay. He said that he doesn't use one framework to measure technology use. Most of the staff has knowledge of all of them, but we don't enforce one or all. And Patrick said that he's hesitant to push a model when he doesn't think one is 100% needed. For himself, technology is used as a valuable tool to enhance amazing teaching, but it doesn't always fit and doesn't always need to be the highest level of integration. And I wanted to point out that comment, kind of a little add-on to my own approach as well, but it's really important to start where the teacher is. And I wanted to say that we're always asked as educators to start where the students are, to adapt and make the learning a personalized, meaningful experience for them. And as coaches, and again, you know, I'm just sharing the same as all of you, but in my opinion, as coaches, we have to meet the teacher on their playing field as well. And I really love that Patrick actually wrote that in the Google slide. And so when we're thinking about how we help our teachers, try to think of where are they and how we can start. And so again, not all of the redefinition or modification is at the same place. So big shout out to Patrick and thank you for sharing there. The last question, just not to go too much over time, and please feel free to keep adding in the comments. The question number 5 was about innovation and taking risks and your comfort zone. And we basically were taking a look at examples of innovation that you were proud of. So it's another opportunity, obviously, to share and to celebrate together. But one of these questions that I stuck in there was actually a question that I often ask education leaders as I help with transformation around the Middle East. And I always say, if you could turn back time, what would be a piece of advice that you would give yourself if you were 5 or 10 years earlier in the role? And I think it's a really nice question for us to think about in our role as coaches. And if we could turn back the clock, what advice would we give ourselves that would really help a teacher's journey or adventure journey, I guess we could say, in the process? Would anybody like to share anything that they'd written on the slide, or if they hadn't had a chance to participate, to share now? I can pick some out on the slides. If not, don't worry, but I just thought I'd give people a chance to share. I love hearing stories.
I mean, since nobody's sharing, I'll talk. I'm awake now. It's been an hour. But like I haven't really ever used Twitter as anything other than just a personal like platform, lame, stupid. And then this summer, really kind of when COVID hit, I, needing to dive a little deeper and be a support for other colleagues and really trying to improve my own practice. I kind of stumbled upon the global GEG like community and like truly has like changed the way, like, bam, I said, there's this PLN that exists digitally, and it's this whole group of people coming together. And I'm just amazed at how like innovative the founders were in this. Like the idea that like, there was a need and the need was met, and then this thing just blew up. And I, went from not having like, just the connections I've made over it, hearing other people's struggles and how they're overcoming it and getting tips and tricks. And the fact that people are just so willing to just give their presentations out on YouTube Live just for the encouragement of all teachers globally is incredible. And I think that's really cool. Pear Deck is another one that I just think is so innovative. It really has transformed the way that I think, or Nearpod for other people that like it. It just transformed the way that we engage in classrooms, and I really love it. And if I could give myself any like encouragement or words of advice, it would be just to kind of like try, like just try stuff. You're not always going to be successful. But if you try, and I think I mentioned really hearing that in Abed's It Works seminar, just take the risk, try the tech, because ultimately what do you have to lose, right? And if it doesn't work, you just move forward. So I think that would be the number one thing that I think I would tell myself 5-10 years ago, because I think I was so afraid to take those risks for fear of being judged or evaluated poorly.
I swear to goodness, I feel teary-eyed listening to your story, and thank you so much for sharing. I'm really, really honored to be with people that are on the same page and just willing to take the risk and put themselves out there. I was also in the same boat. I joined Twitter like 4 years ago and never used it, only started like this past Christmas, and that would totally be the one piece of advice I would give myself, would be to find your tribe and join a PLN that can support you and help you grow. So thank you so much for sharing, Shannon. And yes, shout out to Abbott and the other founding members of Global GEG, because without Global GEG, would we be here today? That is the question. Maybe not, right? So would anybody else like to share their story of what advice they would give themselves? A lot of people saying thank you. Yes, perfect. Feel free to, yes, go ahead, Kat, thanks.
Well, just kind of piggybacking on what Shannon was saying, like the whole, I've always, and I commented on this on someone else's comment, I can't remember whose, but just sometimes it feels like in schools, it's so competitive. And it's like, I've got my resources, you've got your resources, I'm not going to give it to you, like that kind of mentality sometimes. And that, I don't want you copying off of me, or you're bragging or something like that. And one of the best things that I've loved about, especially Twitter and EduTwitter and all of, this is it's just everyone's just sharing. And it's not about, this is mine, you can't have it. It's about, I made this, here, share it, get it out there. And that's been one of the best things I feel for myself, because I was always one of those teachers that wanted to share, but then so many others were just like, no, I'll just keep in my little space and you keep in your space, and never the twain shall meet. And so that's one of the things that has been really amazing about, I know it's not necessarily about comfort zone or even 5 or 10 years ago, but just being able to collaborate with people all over the world who have a like mindset, and appreciate that it's not about me, it's about everybody. And when everybody's sharing, then we're pushing everybody forward. And I love that mentality.
No, thank you so much for sharing. I totally agree, and I think that because of this global GEG and because of our lovely open EC chat that Becky's organized for us, and even this book study, I think we're just going to grow, and I think it's just going to be a whole other level. So thank you so much for being part of that. Not to take everybody's time, we're already 11 minutes over. I did want to save the last 5 minutes of today's book study just to get some feedback from you guys. There were some comments here. I'm now on slide 32, asking about what you would like to see here today. So a lot of people said, you know, sharing stories and tips and tricks. So hopefully I've allowed space for people to share their stories and share some experiences of things that went well from coaching perspective. So I hopefully that's helped, but I'd love to hear from you. Would anybody like to share? I would specifically like to know, did this format of the Google Slide slow chat work for everybody? Does the Google Slide application work for everybody? If you don't feel comfortable sharing out loud, please feel free to just drop us a note after. That's okay as well. But would anybody like to share if this is working well? If we drop another slide deck like this, please let us know.
I like the slide deck. It was a little, I'll be honest with you, when I saw all the words, I kind of freaked out a little bit. But then I understood the process, and I just took my own little section and kind of took a few deep breaths, and then it was okay. So yeah, this is a great idea. I've never done it like this before, just because the text kind of threw me a little bit, but all is well.
I am so grateful you shared that, and thank you for telling me, because that helps me when preparing. Maybe I could have made like a little video to explain it so people could see that. Maybe I could make one for the second book study then for any newcomers. That's great feedback for me, Dr. Karen. Thank you. And that's good also to know that once you got the swing of it, that it ended up being okay. Would anyone else like to share if things are working well, or anything that you felt overwhelmed with or that I could change for you guys? Because again, this is for all of us. It's not just for me. Let me know. Rebecca says she's enjoying the format also. Kristen, Shannon, great. Okay, so what I'll do is I will keep the same format then. The slide deck is actually ready to go. I have a couple things that I want to add in it, some awesome trivia for next week as well, for those of you who are interested in participating in that on Twitter. And we will drop the slide deck this evening for everybody. Yay, Shannon says she loves trivia too. Okay, that's really cool. I thought just to get some inspiration from some awesome leaders, I would give that a go as well, because as you all know, I actually host book studies for my staff, but I've never actually done the Google Meet version. So that part's new for me as well. But I would like to say a massive thank you to all of you, for taking the time to share your stories in the Google Slide chat. It's been really touching for me, and I have learned so much from reading that. And then also, secondly, for taking time out of your summer to join us on the Google Meet, and or if you're watching asynchronously after, and also for unmuting and sharing your stories. It's not always easy to share in front of people that you don't know. And so thank you for the risk taking that you did to share and join with us today as well. Kat is asking about the regular time when school starts. Yes, that is a great question. So that is another thing we wanted to talk about. Do we need, obviously being a global book study, it's really hard to find a time that works for everybody, but obviously we can try and adapt as much as we can. I don't know, Becky, what do you think? Maybe we can send out another poll to look at timings. Maybe that could be good. What do you think, Becky?
No, I think that's a really good idea to look at polls, and maybe we switch off the time. So like we're super early today on the Pacific Coast. But maybe, you know, next time we go a little bit later and we just mix it up. I think we kind of talked about that initially, but I agree, when school starts, this will be a really hard time. I mean, for me, 6 a.m. is not going to be hard. I'm not up anyways, but I know for some people that would be. So we could just keep switching it up, and we can do a poll each time. That would work.
Yeah, maybe we can drop a poll with the book study chat tonight, Becky. I don't mind creating that as well before we drop the slide deck, or maybe I'll drop it into the slide deck as well. And then maybe like 1 week we do it morning, like Becky said, and then the second half of the month we do it like later. So yeah, let's see what works best for you. Any other questions or ideas you guys have? We have lovely Azim joining from Sri Lanka. Did you have any feedback? Is this working well? Paolo likes the rotating times. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, I'll leave that with you, and I will let you know that I am super open to feedback. I'm really excited to be part of this awesome team, and I am happy to change it up for you guys. I'm really open and adaptable and flexible. So you guys just let me know. Feel free to drop in the Google chat that we have going, or you can send me a Twitter message, or you can drop me an email. I'll drop my email as well here, and I'm sure Becky's also open for feedback because she is super Mary Poppins. And she's very excited, and Philomena is in. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording for anybody who is there, and then I'll just say a few more things after. So thank you very much for everybody for joining today, and I'm so excited to dive into chapters 2 and 3 together, and we will stop the recording. Oh, it's not me recording. I don't think it's me recording. No.